and welcome to a special edition of World Insight, the turning point, China's rebound and global recovery. I'm your host, Tian Wei. With the 2023 Spring Festival in full swing, travel and consumer spending have boomed, a clear sign that China's economy is on the road to recovery, some economists say. The 3 years into the pandemic, China has had an average yearly economic growth of about 4.5%, significantly higher than the world average, according to the official statistics. In 2020, the country has the only major economy, in fact, to achieve growth. China has also managed to keep severe cases and death rates among the lowest in the world so far. As the nation eased restrictions with an optimized COVID-19 response, service industries from tourism to retail and food are believed to be on the rebound. GDP growth is expected to reach 5% or higher in 2023. A vibrant Chinese economy could spell a much-needed boost, some believe, to the world economy. For deeper insights, let's have our panelists. I'm so glad to be joined by Liu Baocheng, Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics from the University of International Business and Economics. Also, Edward Xie, the Chairman and CEO of Gaofeng Advisory Company, and Einar Tangen, a Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute and the Current Affairs Commentator for us. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. Now, I know you are all busy celebrating the Spring Festival or the Lunar New Year. What are some of the signs you picked up over the past few days about where the Chinese consumption is going? Professor Liu?
Yes, we noticed there has been quite a period of panic, immediately after the lifting of the COVID zero policy. But very soon we see that the traffic jam has returned, and I visited some of the coffee shops and shopping malls, and they are getting normalized. Where people are really talking about meeting with each other, and also some business people are talking about gathering their funds to reopen their stores, and some of the young people that I supervise are talking about some startup projects.
Okay.
So, after all, we are turning over a significant page and ushering a new life.
Many believe so. Mr. Xie, what about in Hong Kong, where you are?
Yeah, Hong Kong is more or less the same thing. People are coming out to celebrate the Spring Festival, the Chinese New Year. The retail business is doing well. Restaurants are very good, having very good business. As you know, Chinese New Year is when the families get together and greet each other. So the atmosphere and mood is pretty good here in Hong Kong.
And of course, Einar is sitting here with us in the studio. Tell me more about what you have noticed.
Well, all my friends are gone. They're in Hainan. They're everywhere except Beijing. A few are, of course, here traveling. But even with all these friends gone, it's almost impossible to get a restaurant seat on certain days. And it's
fully
just
booked.
Yeah, but mostly it's just a change in attitude. So many people are so much more hopeful. And they're talking about 2023 as something that's going to be a rebuilding year. Not completely back to normal, but a rebuilding year. So.
I think a rebuilding is certainly an accurate word to use here. It's also part of our special series title, also talking about rebuild, what to build upon, where the confidence is, how is consumption, Professor Liu, linked to now what the economy is likely heading for?
Well, I think another key word is confidence, and how we can really reshape and rebuild the confidence of those consumers and get them alleviated of uncertain mishaps. I should say that people are still talking about whether there's a new variant, there's going to be another attack, etc. But I think now it's now getting more and more pacified, and then only those people who are able to get the stable jobs and businesses turn into normal and are there to generate the GDP, and they can be alleviated of the worry. and so therefore they can open their purse wider to buy more of the stuff and to have more of the entertainment. Now that travel restrictions are completely abandoned, so therefore free travel and the hard hit service sector will be able to see a rehabilitation.
What will drive China's economy? Of course, that's always a big question for the year 2023. According to even conservative estimates, at least 4.5% to 5.5%, that's going to be the GDP growth rate. Having said that, though, what's going to drive the Chinese economy? Is it going to be domestic consumption, which we have been talking about, Mr. Xie, over the past few minutes, or is it going to be investment? Where does the money coming from? For investment, that's also crucial. What do you think?
It's going to be a combination of different things. Certainly, domestic consumption is going to be a major driver, as our other guests already have been talking about. At the same time, in fact, foreign funds have been coming into China already since about a month or so ago, because foreign funds are regarding China as a very promising place for investment. In fact, in the last several years, the amount of foreign direct investment in China has been going up despite the difficulty China is facing because of the pandemic. And finally, and of course, the fixed asset investment that's going to be made by the Chinese government is going to be also another major driver, driving up the economic growth for the coming year.
There is a consensus for sure. Einar, while you are living here in China, we have to work on the economy. That is the bottom line, and that is the most important thing for China, the way forward. Now, about we have to work on this, vis-a-vis, what needs to be done, what can be done now. How do you see this link?
Well, it is being done. I was just looking over the, preparing for the show, and 154 countries are part of the Belt and Road Initiative, and you're going to see a lot more economic activity. That's going to be one of the drivers. Remember, as well as China's expected, ASEAN countries, which is the #1 trade partner with China, is expected to do better. So they're actually going to be a huge driver. As they do well, China does well, because they're all interlinked. The supply chain is not unbroken. In fact, it's getting stronger in those areas. So basically, Asia is going to be the strongman of the world, and the rest, especially developing and developed countries, are going to really be hit hard. So we'll see how it happens.
We'll see how it happens. That's really the way it is, isn't it? As the world is also searching about what is the way forward, where the hope is. In fact, how should we understand about the fact that more and more people in the world today realize we have to work on the economy? This is the bottom line for everybody. So, but at the same time, of course, none of those things have gone away. For example, geopolitics, the danger of the pandemic with more severe subvariant, who knows, and also the disruptions of the global supply chain, value chain, the rhetorical war, quote unquote, those are still with us. So how do you see, Edward, that the world is also trying to come to some kinds of consensus? There is bottom line, we have to work on our economy together. And during this time, where the Chinese economy is going, what does that mean for the chemistry between the Chinese economy and the others?
There are forces that's splitting the world, as you were talking about, Tian Wei. There are also forces that are trying to unite the world. And these two types of forces are counteracting each other at this moment. And it depends on who's putting which and who's going to be winning over. From the Chinese perspective, China is trying to play a larger role in ensuring multilateralism across the world. And therefore, from that standpoint, China should be viewed as a stabilizing force. And of course, China is only one of the countries, albeit a major economic power in the world. It also needs the collaboration from many other countries in the world. But we are now also seeing that the world is shifting. Despite the forces that's trying to split the world, there are also increasing number of countries who are willing to work together. As Anna was talking about, for example, the Asian nation or other countries who are on the Belt and Road Initiative, these are the countries who are willing to work together, in particular with China, to try to create more civilization for the world. So I expect more of this civilization will happen. At the same time, we're also not naive to expect that the divisive forces is going to go away in the short term.
Usually crises bring people together, we hope at least. We didn't see that in the pandemic, but we hope crisis could at least bring people together about the bottom line. Now, Professor Liu, on that, we know that the world economy is not necessarily heading for the most beautiful scenes we have seen over the past 2 decades. There are actually predictions of possibilities of recession for some economies and difficulties for everyone. So if China's economy could grow as expected, that we mentioned 4.5 to 5.5-ish, so how are we going to see China's economy be able to play its role in the overall global scene? What could that mean for momentum of development, also from China's policy and the consensus perspective within China?
Well, China's growth will also experience certain bumpy ride, because over the past 1 quarter, at the end of the last year, we do see there has been significant decline in Chinese import and export, and also some of the economic indicators. So therefore, we're going to take some time to really revive. And also the what you quote 5.5 growth point will be based on the low base of the performance of last year. So the most of the international institutions were predict that this year is going to be a difficult year, as IMF and World Bank has slashed its growth forecast down to 1.7% from more than 3%. So China is there to rehabilitate, but in the meantime, China is going to struggle between high quality growth versus nominal economic figure. And also we are dealing with the very tough decarbonization process, which is going to hamper, at least in the short run, the economic growth. And the real economy needs to be rehabilitated. And the consumption, if they're to be reshaped, and the government will have to give more leeways to particularly the subsidies and support to the private enterprises. So, China has been contributing to the world growth for more than 30% over the past 1 decade. And China still continue to play such a sort of role, but China needs to be prepared about many of those uncertainties and difficulties, as you mentioned.
Now, Einar, we all know in economy, there's a talk about the short-term, middle-term, and long-term growth. Some suggest short-term, right policy. Middle-term, real hard work. Longer-term, the direction that really matters. So I know it's a very foresight question, but thinking about the right direction we need to work towards, even during the short term, with the right policy and hard work. Now, your thoughts about where we are today?
Well, where we are today is you can't separate history. So as Professor Liu Baocheng said, and I agree, China has been consistently successful over the last 40 years. Not so much other countries. And I think 2023 is going to be a watershed year in terms of people realizing they're going to look at the figures of what happened with COVID-19, which countries did well, which ones didn't. They're also going to look at the economy. And you can spin things however you want, but the facts are going to be irrefutable. And I think this is a good time for people-to-people diplomacy, especially in the short run. Over the last 3 years, people were isolated. And I do think that has a tremendous amount of effect on trust. And trust is the basis of all business. Personal relationships, it doesn't matter what it is. I can't trust you. I can't possibly deal with you, and that includes international affairs. If you're going to break treaties, I can't be part of you. If you're not going to honor the contract, I'm not going to do business with you. So at this juncture, I think short term, China is going to do everything that Professor Baochang has indicated in terms of using its toolbox to get things started. But already, this last boom has seen 10 million jobs in the retail and tourism sector created within China. And those effects will also be spread, especially to countries that welcome Chinese tourists. So it's things. In middle term, very tough. International demand is going to be down. Obviously, you see the layoffs of workers at high-paying, high-tech jobs in the United States. And Europe is really having real headwinds. I do believe that they're in recession, not going to be in recession. And those are going to be real headwinds because they affect demand globally, and that's going to affect a lot of countries. But I think Asia will be a brighter spot in an otherwise cloudy day.
We also need to point out there are different views about how economies elsewhere are doing. Certainly, we hope everybody will have a better future than predicted. Having said that, though, go to you, Mr. Xie, also about that point, short-term, mid-term, longer term.
Yeah, I think short-term, there's still going to be quite a lot of fluctuations. In particular, most countries, including China, are coming out from the COVID situation. So, we should expect a certain degree of turbulence in the short term, albeit we expect China will come out quite well among all the other economies in the world. Medium term, I think, things will begin to sort things out a little bit. Countries are beginning to see which countries actually are taking the real lead in the world economy, and therefore countries are going to be following the leadership of those countries who are providing the real leadership for the world. For the longer term, I think there will be a demarcation on the effectiveness of the various governance models in the world. And right now, I think there's a debate on which governance model will work. But over time, I think the right governance model or more effective governance model will be providing leadership for the world on the longer term.
Less spinning, more real work for the better of the real people. Probably that should be a New Year resolution for every one of us. Thank you so much for joining us. Edward Xie, Liu Baocheng, and Einar Tangen. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to you and your loved ones. Thank you.